we could have looked at it several weeks from now. But having said that, I'm done.
Thank you, Alderman Volt. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to follow up to my colleague in Ward 2. He made the comment about residing in Hendersonville. If we're going to take the ad hoc committee's 80-page report, and that is one of their recommendation, the candidate should come from outside Hendersonville and bring related experience. So I think if we're going to take their complete 80 pages and abide by it, and this is one of them. So I think the person should come outside of Hendersonville. Thank you.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Call to question.
We have a motion to call the question. It needs to pass by a 2/3 vote in order for it to pass. We have 12 of us here, so that's going to take, why is that math so hard? 8. Thank you. I was thinking 9. I knew that wasn't correct. So we have one person in the queue, but when somebody calls the question, I've been reminded several times that we need to move forward. All those in favor of ending discussion and going on with the main motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. We're back to the main motion, and this is, yes, so we're back to the amendment, which is May 28th, I believe.
Look at job description, exact salary.
Hold on one second. Go ahead, Kay.
The amendment would be amending the ordinance that we meet again on May the 28th, but the caveat there is, or the amendment would be that Mr. Jekyll, who's our professional advisor, or HR professional, Mr. Voss, yourself, the mayor, and at least one or two makers of the ordinance, the sponsors, sit down and work on the exact job description, exact salary, and what that would look like. And when it comes back for second reading, if the board doesn't like it, we vote it down and throw it out, or we vote it up and go forward with it. And the only thing I would say to that is, I think if the process works right, you're well into next year anyway, before we can get that done. But I know that's taking more time, but I think time is fine. We need to be a little bit, and I want what you said. I want to see the professional degrees in there. I'll vote it down if it doesn't come back with that stuff in it. So.
John, can I meet in a meeting like that with another member of the board?
It raises some sunshine law problems, although we could give notice of the meeting, I suppose. Meet like in a committee room, as long as we give public notice. I think that would solve that problem.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
I'm just saying, if you met with some aldermen on this, we'd be sort of like a subcommittee of this board, and we'd have to give public notice of it. And so anybody that wanted to come could, because it'd have to be a public meeting, because they're discussing something that's coming before this board.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have the main motion. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2019-14 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. No. Alderman Waters, I believe, Alderman Woodcock, myself, Alderman Edwards, and Alderman Skidmore. Anybody else? That passes 6-5.
No.
7-5, excuse me. I didn't know the difference between 8 and 9 either. So, next we have citizen comments.
Waters,
I'm sorry.
Edwards, Skidmore.
Yeah.
And Robertson.
Mary Burns, Roberta Drive.
Can you hold my time until the room gets quiet a little?
Yep.
Haven't started it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. From the Lorax, my favorite book. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. And I'd like to share with all of y'all that working with you is like herding cats. They go in one direction and then pretty soon they'll go in another. This evening, what I'd like to share with you was the committee report from the Solid Waste and Citizens Advisory. It's going to be different than what our alderman is going to say, but I would like to say what our recommendation to you was. Well, it's to the committee. Our recommendation was curbside once a week. And the reason for this is that it covers everybody's needs without exception. It was well discussed among all of us at these committee meetings that if you give one group what they want, then you're leaving us out. Okay, my preference and my personal choice is clearly once a week curbside, because that's what I've grown up with. If a person does not want once a week curbside, they can still be serviced by selecting once a week curbside, because people that want the backdoor service can have it. I have read all of the bid specs, and I'm clear on what the discussion was. Clearly, if you pick once a week curbside, the type of truck that is used is a truck that has this big old nasty arm that comes down, picks up the dumper, and it dumps it. He's in front of your house approximately, 8 seconds, 15 at the most, and he puts that back down. He cannot pick up the bulk, and he cannot really do the back door because it's one man on a truck that's automated. It picks up that beautiful 96-gallon and it dumps it. Now, the guy that wants the back door, he gets serviced by a second type of truck. It's not even the same type. A rear-end loader, and you know, you can discuss these things with the proponents that are asking for you to accept their bid. That type of truck picks up bulk. It has more than one person because bulk items are going to require a minimum of 2 men to put it in the truck. It is either going to be a side load or a back load. So by picking curbside, you're still selecting to service the guy that is in a wheelchair and needs backdoor service. The truck that comes along that would have a back access clearly can service those people. But the only service of all of your bid specs that will service everybody is if you select curbside once a week. If a person wants it twice a week because they have a lot of diapers, that's not a problem either. In the bid specs, it can require that a person can ask for a second bid. I don't know if you guys looked at that bin out there, but it's huge. 96 gallons is a lot. But some people don't know how big that really is. They can say, well, I need more than that. Okay, great. So you can have 2 with a certain added amount. I think it's like $5. They can have a second dumper, or they could have 2 dumpers. It's not going to cost more money for the arm to pick it up. He's going to be at the curb a few seconds more. No big deal. Okay,
Right, 30 seconds.
Oh, dang. I've waited so long. That's not fair. The committee report didn't even get to you guys. And what is this about? Well, my thing is recycling, and we all know it. This is the containers I picked up after your last BOMA meeting. And I've carried them in my truck to bring them back to show you. Because the best way for a person to learn personal responsibility is like one alderman who has decided it's not so funny when Mary picks up your recyclables. He's decided to bring
Mary, thank you.
a canister and do it the other way. So
Appreciate it.
please, for the love of sake, pick once a week curbside. Otherwise, you're leaving me out, and I'm not nice to be left out.
Chairman Cunningham, Finance Committee.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. We had our Finance Committee meeting tonight, and we had several resolutions and ordinances. Ordinance 2019-17, appropriating $86,403.68 TDOT fund to the Saundersville Road Local Interchange Connector Project was recommended unanimously. Resolutions 2019-18 to apply for a Meet Me at the Park Play Spaces grant in the amount of $30,000 was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2019-19 to apply for a dog park dash grant, no additional funding, was recommended unanimously. Resolution 2019-20 to apply for a Pet Safe Bark for your park grant, no additional funding, recommended unanimously. Resolution 2019-25 to apply for a Memorial Foundation grant in the amount of $15,000 is also recommended unanimously. We did not review the budget because we deferred that until the next meeting. We got a report on the construction and the year-to-date funding of the fire hall that's being built. Got a good estimate from Ron. Detailed report. We reviewed the budget overage report for March 2019. We reviewed the sales tax report for April 2019, and through April year-to-date for 10 months, our sales tax revenue was up 4.4% year-over-year for additional $466,449, and year-to-date that would be, let's see. Yeah, that would be the sales tax report. The revenue reports are not yet available at this time. We discussed the audit, and the audit, Ron has received back some information and some more work that he has to supply to the auditors, so our 2018 audit is still not ready, but should hopefully be ready shortly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman Cunningham. Chairman Sprouse, General Committee. Alderman Petrelli for Chairman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been 34 days since my initial question regarding our risk assessment process for the city and my questions about Arrowhead Park not being on our carriers. I have 5 specific questions. Everybody on the board has those questions. At the last meeting, you said that you would get with Vice Mayor Cunningham to go over these answers, and that is indeed not her role and not her job. So I'm just wondering when I could expect answers to my 5 questions that I emailed you about initially 34 days ago.
I gave you answers to those questions, at least the ones that we had answers to at the Finance Committee meeting, I think that same night.
You absolutely did not. You gave a broad overview. I have 5 specific questions. I ask that you just please review my email. Some of it requires speaking with the finance director, which I do not want to do with him, but I'm sure if you spent maybe 3 minutes with him, you could get answers to the questions.
Alderman Sprouse, General Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. General Committee will meet in 3 weeks from last night. And items on the agenda that we have previously reviewed, we recommended, or item B, ordinance 2019-14. We recommended item C, 2019-16. Item D, 2019-17. Also, item F, Resolution 2019-22. Thank you.
Chairman Brown, Public Safety Committee.
No report, Mayor.
Chairman Skidmore, Public Works Committee.
All right, thank you. I will keep it as brief as possible. Resolution 2019, 18, 19, 20, and 25 all passed our committee and then went to finance, and apparently finance approved it, and we're in 2 weeks, we'll probably have it up here at the board. We did talk real briefly about residential refuse contract. Ms. Burns, who kind of keeps an eye on us, and as well as the recycling committee, and I just call it the recycling committee, but it's a long term of what it is, isn't it? Yeah, right. And it being with it two in the morning, whatever the name of it is, I would agree to it at this point. Anyway, she came, as you well know, and they decided that the curbside once a week would be beneficial for the city of Hendersonville. Other than that, we had several more items, but we're just put that on for the next, hopefully it'll be a shorter agenda. And then also on the refuse contract, we came out of the Public Works Committee on a neutral position on that because we wanted the whole board to be engaged on the garbage contract. So there wasn't any, clandestine motive or anything like that. We just felt that the whole board, which is a normal thing, I've gone through several of these, and this is what we normally do. And so everybody can be engaged on the garbage contract. I do want to make an announcement. I don't see our parks director here, but we do want to tell everybody that Mary's Magical Place will be open either this weekend or at the early next week. So check on it, go driving around or something in the park and look and see if it's open. If it's not, it should be open in the early next week if it isn't. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. Chairman Campbell, Capital Projects.
No report, Mayor.
Alderman Woodcock, Planning Commission.
Our last meeting, we had two items, one of which was on our agenda tonight, already passed, ordinance 2019-16. The second one either should have been or has to be put in the paper. The Anderson Park, that was rejected by General, was it pulled or was it being delayed because it had to be a public hearing noticed?
I think the applicant's coming back with it.
Hold on. Go ahead, Kay.
It's my understanding the applicant's going to come back with maybe something different.
Back to planning and start over. All right, thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2019-11. This is ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 12, Chapter 9 of our Housing Code. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of approving first reading of ordinance 2019-11, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2019-17. This is an ordinance appropriating $86,403.68 of reimbursed Tennessee Department of Transportation funds to the Saundersville Road Local Interchange Connector Project. Alderman Skidmore?
Yes, so moved, please.
A motion and a second. Alderman Woodcock?
We voted on this in finance tonight, and we understood everything about it except why we received the money back from TDOT. No one was available to answer that question.
It was reimbursed money.
I know it says reimbursement from TDOT, but it doesn't say what.
Hold on one second. Alderman Campbell.
It's the Saundersville Road, Winston Hills underpass. There was money coming back from TDOT where they had paid a bill. We paid a bill, they put it in their part, and they reimbursed us the difference, 50/50.
Gotcha. All right, that's what we
And
assumed.
we're putting the money back in the account, so it'd be there for future work.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Skidmore.
Pat Campbell said exactly what I was going to say. I just didn't put my thing down. There we go.
All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2019-17, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have resolution 2019-16. This is a resolution authorizing the city of Hendersonville to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement for emergency communications. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2019-16, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we have resolution 2019-22. This is a resolution establishing a process for recruiting and hiring department heads. Alderman Petrelli. We have a motion and a second. Alderman Strauss.
I would like to thank Alderman Petrelli for coming up with this idea a few weeks ago, seeing a situation that needed to be addressed and addressing it in a very straightforward, easy to understand process. Sometimes it's frustrating that we have to sometimes codify common sense, but it's good to have policy written down so we can make sure we follow it. One of the things I want to ask is if we end up passing city administrator on second reading, is that we come back and readdress this resolution, should it be passed, see if it should give us any light towards how a candidate for that position should be selected. And I think that this is a pretty good guideline for that. I do want to ask, if I can, just some follow-up questions right now since we have some current openings. Mayor, I've asked in a meeting, I've sent an email, I've asked in the meeting, and the reason why we had such a big gap in the last meeting was because you were looking for the email. I understand. I checked with the department head. He answered the question you didn't remember, which was that you didn't engage our HR director before hiring the private company to do the search for our finance director. Passed out at the last meeting the documentation they're sending out versus the documentation that our professional staff is doing for the search for the public works director. The question that remains unanswered in the email is, we're paying someone an hourly rate to do something that I think has been demonstrated can be done as well, actually can be done better by the city's professional HR staff. What specifically is this consultant you're hiring doing that our professional HR staff is not already being paid to do?
As I answered in the email, the consultant that we hired has the opportunity to focus on that, and they have more time. Since we're going to stay on this resolution here, Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with most of this procedure, but I'd like to offer an amendment or a suggestion, if I may. I'd like for us to remove the word manager when we're talking about Mr. Voss. His title is HR Director, so I would like to make that change.
We have a motion. Alderman Waters, would you like to add anything else?
That's the amendment I'd like to make to that.
Okay. We don't have a second on that.
Okay.
Anything else?
C, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait a minute. It's just 215. Number 3, I think, is one I had looked at. Human Resource Manager, or developer, an application packet, and any related materials in place of advertisement. Is there any money expensed to us, to the sponsor, if I may?
The question.
Number 3,
Yes, sir.
the Human Resources Manager develops an application packet and any related materials and places advertisement to include any professional organization. My question was, is there any expense in that?
Yes, sir, I'm sure there is. I believe it's in the human resource budget. I can't speak for that. Our human resource department is actually at a conference. I did want to speak to your question about the human resource manager. I thought that was a very good question because I also thought he was a director, but he is technically a manager and he falls under the finance department, under the finance director.
Alderman Waters.
So moved.
Okay. Alderman Petrelli, did you want to speak in addition to this?
No, sir.
Okay. Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I might, and I appreciate the effort Alderman Petrelli coming up with this. I may just respectfully vote against it. I think it respectfully seems like it's somewhat micromanaging, and I think we might have to undo a lot of this when we get the city administrator, because the city administrator may determine there's a better way. So with all due respect, that's the reason I may vote against that. So that's all I have.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. I have similar thoughts as the last speaker, but really the only one I have an issue with is number 6. The BOMA will review application packages and hold informal meetings in person or via Skype with the top 3 candidates. The way I see that is we don't control who we get as the candidate the mayor selects, and I feel like it could taint that process by, for example, if we have 3 candidates we ask questions to and we happen to like candidate 3, but candidate 1 or 2 gets the job offer, and then, it's going to automatically set us back where we're in a confrontation of, well, person 3 asked my question, answered my questions better than the one you hired, so I'm not going to support that. So I would just ask that be removed, or I would like to hear feedback from the sponsor of the resolution as why that should remain in the resolution.
Alderman Petrelli.
Yes, sir. To the junior alderman in Ward 3, being new to the board and have not gone through a hiring process yet, this is actually our technical process. This is what we're supposed to be following. This was written in conjunction with our human resource manager and Gary Jekyll. I told Mr. Jekyll to leave because it was 2 o'clock in the morning and he was ready, he was exhausted like the rest of us, but he was willing to speak on this. But this is what we are supposed to be doing. To the senior alderman in Ward 5, you asked about number 6. Okay, so I didn't want to get into a bunch of details so as to not make anybody feel uncomfortable, but we all vote on the directors up here, right? So what I was trying to avoid was a situation like last year where an offer was made to a director, and then afterwards we received the resume and went through it. And so to me, there were red flags because the amount of jobs that were had in a 20-year period, which indicated to me that that person is a job hopper. So in addition, so basically, instead of rubber stamping, if we're going to vote on a director, we either give our input or we don't. I think that there is room for number 6 to maybe be tweaked, because I don't think we need to be over-involved, but if I'm voting on a director, I'm not going to rubber stamp it. I'm going to look at their resume. I'm going to ask what MTAS had to say about it. And I think it would be nice to have the opportunity to at least meet the candidates. We've got 2 new positions, or not new positions, but 2 directors' positions coming up with Public Works and Finance. And I would prefer to actually meet these folks and see what they have to offer the city prior to just rubber stamping a vote.
Alderman Woodcock.
Yes, sorry, I had a follow-up question. So I get that part. Now, this kind of goes into sunshine, so we can't really have informal meetings, so it'd have to be one-on-one. If we're going to vote to hire someone, that's a vote. We can't meet informally.
No, it would just be for information gathering. It would just be to what I would expect would happen is we would have the opportunity to go in and meet with somebody, even as a group, and if we had some questions we wanted to ask, that would just be for information gathering, but no voting, absolutely no voting there. That would happen here.
Right, but you can't discuss how you're going to vote.
Correct, no discussions, nothing like that.
You have to direct your questions to the interviewee, I would think would be.
Right, but what I'm saying is it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. Of course, we wouldn't be talking about it or voting on the other item where we're going to meet with a few different people. But we talked about how that has to be noticed.
Because that's to make a decision to come before this board with a job description. That's something that's going to come before the board. But if you're just interviewing someone, there's an exception to the sunshine law for informational purposes. So if you're just getting information from the purpose, as long as the 2 aldermen aren't debating whether this one ought to be considered any further or not, that would be wrong.
Yeah.
As long as it's just information gathering, it would be acceptable.
As an applicant, I could imagine saying, yeah, you got 15 people that want to meet with you. Yeah, so I don't like it, but, it is what it is, and I think we're going to have to change it as soon as we hire the city administrator if that happens, so, yeah, thanks.
John, would that informal meeting have to be noticed publicly for anybody to show up and witness it?
Not if it's just an interview, as long as it's not a meeting of the board, as long as it's not working toward a decision. It'd probably be better to have it public, I suppose, but that's.
Go ahead. Alderman Woodcock, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You're fine. So who would schedule it?
I'd ask the maker of the motion.
Alderman Petrelli.
That would be through our human resource department.
So he would schedule a date and then send out an email saying this person's flying in on this date. If you have questions, show up at this room and ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mainly just for a meet and greet.
Yeah, that's where I'm not trying to make a big deal of this. It's really not that big of a deal. But what I can see happening is 5 people saying, well, I'm out of town that day. See if you can come back this day, and it's just going to be a cluster, you know what. So,
yeah, I agree. No, it's one date, and it is what it is, and the date would have to depend on the applicant's availability. So I think that would be the prevailing date.
Alderman Woodcock. I've got a couple questions. Prior to me coming here, it was rare that the city went through the MTAS recruitment process and the assessment. What happens if MTAS is not available to do number 2 and number 5? Alderman Petrelli.
So for number 2. If they're not available, but so when we look at hiring a director, this isn't something that happens in a 24-hour or 1-week period. the position of the Public Works Director has been vacant since January?
Not vacant.
I'm sorry, excuse me, of the, we will be searching. I love getting into the tit for tat. We're going to mince words and look at loopholes. That's fine with me at 2:30 in the morning. So we will be hiring a Public Works Director. Does that meet with your satisfaction, Mayor?
I'm sorry, go ahead. I guess my question was, if MTS isn't available for 4 weeks, does that mean that we're going to delay the whole process by 4 weeks? And
No,
items number
that
two
would,
and,
it's just like how we've done it with, how you did with the Codes Director. They work in congruency, congruently with the Human Resource Department and come up with a time frame. None of these hires happen overnight or in a week or in a month. They are a multi-month process. We're on month 4 of Public Works.
and part of the reason for that is because they have been backed up working on some other assessment projects for other cities. So if I have to wait until they're available to do that, and we may not think it's necessary to do that, if I have to wait, does that mean that we wait until they are available for number 2 as well as for number 5?
Okay, number 5. Well, Mr. Jekyll was going to speak to number 5, but again, because it's 2:30 in the morning, he had to leave. If there's any, problems with setting up an assessment center, we can just cross that bridge when we get to it. We can say at the discretion of MTAS, if that would, I can make that amendment if that would make it more palatable to you. Mayor?
I am absolutely going to use MTAS when we feel it's appropriate and when they have the capacity to do it, but I worry about the delay that it would cause in number 2 and number 6 by leaving those requirements in there.
Sure, but with, in regards to number 5, which for the sake of the citizens, number 5 is top candidates will be invited to participate in an assessment center conducted by MTAS. I would presume that you would want our directors, like we did with the Codes Director, to be not only interviewed and resumed and gone through, but also to go through the assessment center
Possibly so,
process.
but possibly I just have Peter, or possibly I have other mayors help me out with that decision.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
So, and then also, may I use outside help? May I talk to other mayors? May I talk to people that have a similar role in other positions in other cities? May I hire an outside agency? Alderman Petrelli?
What do you mean by why would you hire an outside agency?
Well, in the situation with finance, it was something that we felt like would help us to get a wider pool of folks as well as to move faster. This doesn't seem that I would be allowed to do it, and
we have a human resource department who is highly qualified in recruiting and advertising for our positions. When that ad went up for the finance director, it was not only filled with an incorrect job description and pay scale and working hours, among other things, but there was no contact information, and that ad actually went through the, whatever the financial group, for architects, it's American Institute of Architects, I don't know what it is for accounting, CPA group, but it was further advertised wrong. So why would you want to go through an outside consultant or agency?
because we were able to get that fixed, and now we're having we're having a greater pool and greater opportunity to bring people up in and to move faster. If you're saying I can't use an outside agency, I think that prevents us from finding some applicants.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear what some of the other aldermen have to say.
Could I ask a couple more questions, please?
Sure.
Okay. Also, after we've done number 7 and number 8, what happens if we decide that none of the candidates should be hired?
Then you start a new search.
Okay? So is that in here that that's allowed? Because it says the mayor will often present a successful candidate, provide that information to the board prior to extending an offer to the candidate. I think that needs to be in there that.
Which number are you on?
Number 7 and number 8. The mayor will conduct final interview with candidates. What happens if at that point I decide that none of these candidates should go forward?
Well, I would, quite honestly, if we're going through this process and if our human resource manager, if our human resource department is involved and MTAS, I would think that would be helpful in establishing if there are viable candidates to assist you. Have you had that problem in the past?
Yes, we had that problem with assistant finance director, is that we did all in-house, and they did a great job, nothing wrong there, but we had candidates that we decided we should not go forward with.
But
And this doesn't seem to allow, this seems to say that I have to choose one of those candidates.
No, I think if you don't have a candidate that meets the city's needs, then you start back over again. But have you had that problem in hiring a department head position?
Not yet, but that certainly is a possibility. See, what we're running into is that I've had to pick 3 candidates up in number 6. At that point, I have to interview them, and if I decide then that these 3 aren't good to go forward, it doesn't give me an option to back up at that point, or whoever the mayor is.
I'm done. Thank you.
Anything else you want to help me explain here? Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. I'm going to offer an amendment here towards the end, but let's be very careful with the language. Don't say we decided anything. You unilaterally decided to engage a private company to conduct the search for the finance department. You did not consult the board. You did not consult anyone in the HR department
Yes, I
prior to
did.
making that decision.
Yes, I did.
Not until after the fact.
That's not true.
Okay, well then, either you're not telling the truth or our HR director's not telling the truth.
I don't think it's either, to be honest with you, but go ahead.
Okay? I don't know how it can't be either, because he's saying you didn't consult him prior to doing this, and you told me that you couldn't remember when I asked you in an email.
We spoke about it generally a couple weeks ahead of time, and also spoke with Gary Jekyll to say that I unilaterally made that decision. Quite honestly, that's my decision, and I have to make that decision. I did consult some other people, though.
But when you're asked about it, you fail to disclose it, and you try to conceal the discussion in a public meeting.
Not at all.
We can go back, and the record will not reflect that.
I think I tried to ask you to give me more time to answer the question correctly, is what I asked for.
I gave you an hour and a half to go find an email. You said you sent the entire board, and you never found that.
Yeah, and that was during a board.
Okay, well, let's get back to the point.
Hold on. That was during a board meeting, and I felt like y'all needed me back as soon as possible. And since then, I provided you that information, which you now have asked for a second time, even though I did already provide it for you.
You did not. I'm sorry, you did not.
I told you that the reason was for focus and for the amount of
And I
time
asked
to be
it
placed on it.
specifically. Instead of casting fear and doom and doubt on Ms. Petrelli's resolution at the last minute,
my questions are fear and doom and doubt?
May I propose an amendment to fix this? In Section 2, we will say, if MTask is not available to provide this service in a timely manner, the board may authorize to proceed without MTask or with outside provider, an outside service provider. And we can say that can be for any type of this in this process when MTask is used. And just say, if MTask is not available to provide this service in any portion of this process in a timely manner, the board can authorize to proceed without MTask or with an outside service provider.
And are you saying at a board, I assume you're saying at a board meeting which could require a delay of 2 weeks?
Yes,
or
sir, it
possibly
could.
3 weeks?
We've been more than 100 days without a public works director. I think we can wait 2 weeks to do that. And I will tell you, and furthermore, in my discussion with the HR director, if his department had initiated the search for our finance director, it would have had from the very beginning a proper listing with all the information that's required in the listing, and he told me he would already be in the process of reviewing candidates.
I think you're probably correct on that. However, it would not have gone out as timely as it did.
It would have gone out correctly.
And it got out correctly within 2 days.
Did we pay extra hours for them to fix that?
We did not.
Okay.
Is that a formal amendment? Yeah, that's a motion that we add that.
Motion and a second to add some verbiage on item 2.
Another point to add to that it wasn't used to be understood.
That in section 8, line 8, it says the mayor will establish an offer to present to the successful candidate should one be identified, doesn't require someone to be picked from that pool.
Are you making that as one, those two items as one amendment?
I'll make those two items as one amendment.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not want to speak to the amendment. I did want to speak to Alderman Petrelli's questions. You wanted to hear somebody else weigh in, and I would like to weigh in on that.
I don't think we have anybody else to speak on the amendment, so we might be able to dispose of that.
You want to do the amendment first?
Yes, we should.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment as proposed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Alderman Brown.
You got me? Okay. As for hiring an outside agency, I guess there's pros and cons to that, but I'll be honest. We have a very good professional director of the HR department that has put plenty of job descriptions together, and along with MTAS and I don't see any sense in spending money to do that. That's my opinion. I agree with her. So, there you go.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Edwards, did I skip over you? I'm sorry.
I don't have, no, I'm not in the queue.
Okay. All those in favor of Resolution 2019-22 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. It was myself and Alderman Edwards. Next, we have Resolution 2019-26. This is a resolution to determine trash collection service for the city of Hendersonville. I so move. Have a motion, a second. Alderman Waters, I believe, was our second. Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions. Last week we sat in a budget workshop here, and we kind of took a straw poll of what our ward was interested in, whether it was back door, front door. Y'all don't do front door, do you? But it's early. Back door, curbside, so on and so forth. And I thought at that time, I mean, we discussed 2 or 3 companies. We had a sheet on Republic and Waste Pro and discussed them a bit. But I thought at that time, we stated that we would decide tonight what type of service that we wanted. And it's already stated in this resolution. And I can tell you the people in Ward 4 want back door twice a week. So, and we've already, we have Waste Pro's name in here. So, Waste Pro come in with a bid there. And Republic has also got a bid that I think is a little bit cheaper than Waste Pro or less expensive. I don't use cheap, word cheap. So I don't know why this is already in a resolution form with a name in there and the type of service, because we did not vote on that. We said we were going to do that tonight. So
I'm fine with that. I had 3 blanks there, and I asked last week if y'all could give me some direction. I just put in the 3 items that the straw poll showed us. I could have brought it with 3 blanks there, and that's fine if somebody wants to change that.
Okay.
But I felt like the board had given me some direction on how to fill in those 3 blanks. Alderman Edwards.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm for, I kind of did a knee-jerk reaction at the, when I initially voted for the back door once a week, but after speaking with Mary and considering this more and getting feedback from some of the constituents, I'm leaning more towards doing curbside once a week, and I'm told that it's pretty foolproof and to be able to pick up people's trash that require back door. Is that correct? Either one, Marshall or Mary. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it's computerized, right? That they
Hold on, Marshall. Can you come up here for us, please?
You could explain if you could explain how exactly that if a resident requests backdoor service, how we can be assured that their house won't get missed.
Our department would have the discretion on what I guess entails backdoor service, whether it's medical exemptions or whatever the case may be. We would decide that. We would then make a list of all those people that we would then provide to the vendor, and they would. They would put that into their routes, and ensure that, the houses that we selected for backdoor service get picked up.
Okay, and is there any, can we do some redundancy here, like perhaps stickers on the mailboxes to, if there's a computerized system that tells the addresses? And then in addition, have some stickers on the mailboxes, like a blue sticker, something that would, so the driver won't miss it. Is that a possibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can just take the sticker off, I guess, if it.
Yeah, we could talk, of course, talk with the vendors to find out the best way to, do that, so certainly.
Well, if that can be assured, not 100%, then I'm for curbside once a week.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. I want to make sure I'm understanding, because it goes back to what I said earlier. You ask the same question to 5 people, you get 5 different answers. During this process, I asked, can it be split up into 2, because all my subdivisions, our subdivisions, are trained to go curb, because they will not get picked up otherwise. But then we also have the other side of Ward 5 that has long driveways, hilly driveways, and it's unrealistic to expect them to take their cart back and forth. So are you saying theoretically that a subdivision could have curbside, and then the parts of town that have long driveways could be backdoor?
If we decide that to allow, backdoor pickup for, for long driveways or whatever the case may be, we could.
For a higher fee?
Yes.
Right. If it exceeds the 3% that's allowed in the bid, we'd renegotiate the fee with the vendor, and it would increase, and we could provide that.
Okay. I think last meeting I was here, I said that I was 100% once a week curbside based on my experience of never having it picked up otherwise.
Sure.
And I think that's, unless the contract changed, because as if you recall, my issue was they wouldn't pick it up from the curbside unless it was a bag. And so like if I had 5 bags on the bottom and a couple boxes, like a pizza box, and then a bag on top, they would just get the top bag and walk off because everything was not in a bag. And then I'd have trash for a week.
Right.
And so if that's not going to be addressed, it sounds like the best case would be the once a week curbside for the people that in the subdivisions that are having to do it. And again, every subdivision in Ward 5 drive on a Tuesday or Thursday or Monday, Thursday, and their trash cans at the curb. But the people, like I said earlier, have long driveways, hilly driveways, could pay extra, which would still be a savings compared to what they're paying today to get backdoor. Because we're going from twice a week to once a week.
Right. I guess the only part I'm unsure about in that statement is the part about them paying more for that service. I think the way I thought about it was if you make all these exceptions, we just would absorb that into a little bit higher fee for curbside.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we could try to identify, I guess, those people and try to make their rate. It may be kind of confusing to try to pick out those people and make their rate higher, but.
But you're saying it's doable, or you're saying it's going to be too complicated?
I think what he's saying is that it would have to be rolled into everybody's fee would increase.
Right.
Not just the people.
Oh, I see. Like it'd be an average of everything.
Yes.
So everybody would be, if he's curbside, he's paying the same fee as me as backdoor.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be a tough sell.
It'd be a small, my guess is, again, I don't know the percentages of backdoor service. We're assuming 3%. It could be 10%, but I don't know, I don't know yet the amount that would increase if we went that route.
Right.
Alderman Woodcock, anything else?
No.
Alderman Sprouse.
All right, thank you. If anyone's coming late to this meeting, watching us, just want to point out it's 2:45, and just the ability that we have to put together coherent sentences is great. I picked the wrong day to decide I wasn't going to have caffeine after noon, but I guess it's still before noon. I could probably have some right now. I'm gonna, if you would, get your pen and paper in front of you. I'm going to give you 5 numbers.
Are you to the board?
To the board. And in the meanwhile, while you're doing that, I'm getting that ready. I want to talk to you a little bit about, I thought as well, Mr. Edwards, about something to indicate someone who may have a condition or reason for why they need to have backdoor pickup. And then I realized that's something I will fight as hard as I can, because I don't want to have any sort of indication on anyone's household, on anyone's house, that there's someone who may have difficulty getting around or accessing what's going on. I remember years ago, the newspaper used to put a little sticker on if you got the newspaper. That was a pretty good thing if you were going out knocking on doors to know if someone read the newspaper beforehand. But I would never want anyone to my parents or my grandparents, where they were still alive, to know that that was a household with someone who had some sort of mobility difficulty who would maybe less likely to protect themselves. The numbers we're going to look at, what we're paying right now, each homeowner in Hendersonville who receives trash service. This is not a fee that is charged to anybody other than residential homeowners. If you live in an apartment, you don't pay it. If you have commercial pickup, you don't pay it. Last year, we charged $293 per house. I asked in the workshop for apples to apples. I will tell you, I got an overwhelming response from people. Almost everyone I talked to reached out to me, said, I'm glad you asked for that, because it doesn't matter to me if the cost is $2 million or $3 million or something like that. It's kind of like telling me what McDonald's quarterly earnings are compared to the price of a quarter pounder. They just want to know what the bottom line is going to be. So that's using that method of calculation. Yes, there are some disposal fees and tipping fees that we pay for in the general fund, but this is what we collect for collection, is $293. The option of backdoor once a week, if we use the same method of calculation, and I appreciate Marshall for providing this number, backdoor once a week would cost, using the same method of calculation, $168 per year per household. If we were to go to backdoor twice a week, it would be $277 per year per household. That is the current service level that we have. That is the current service provider that we have, and it is a reduction. It's not a huge reduction, but it is a reduction in service, and it's the first time I've ever seen that in 18 years. Curbside once a week would be a cost of $134 per household per year. Curbside twice a week would be $203 per household per year. We now have a situation, we have a number where people can compare apples to apples. What would it save them for the reduction of service? And I will tell you, there is no wrong answer on any of these options. There's no super math to do. It's what do people want? That has always been my opinion on this one. This is not an engineering question. This is not a planning question. There's some concerns we're going to have if we go to curbside about how are we going to regulate where they're placed and how long they can be out and things like that. But that can be handled. Those are just things we're going to have to be prepared for. This I've always filed under, if the people want to pay for it, then let them pay for it. If they want a higher level of service than any other community in Middle Tennessee, and we can find a vendor who's going to provide that, and people are happy with the cost, let them do it. If there are folks who don't want to participate, it's just like if I go and eat somewhere and they put something on my plate and I don't want it, I don't eat it. I don't make them take it off the menu for everybody else who's ordering that. In other words, if somebody wants to take it to the curb, they can take it to the curb. If they only need garbage once a week, they can only do garbage once a week. I will tell you what the response I have had. I've had a diversity of opinion on this one, as I normally do. There have been a lot of people saying, hey, I'm okay with once a week. Hey, I'm okay with curbside. I'm already doing that, or that's not that big of an issue. But I would think the larger portion has been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I will tell you, the folks who've said, let's go curbside, or the folks who've gone once a week have been, you know, if you do that, that's fine, and I'm okay with it either way. The folks who have been adamant have been the people who say twice a week backdoor. I could go with once a week curbside, but I'm in a different, you know, that's my situation. There's times in my life I definitely would want to have twice a week. When I had much, much younger children who didn't take full use of the sewer system that we have in Hendersonville, and we had some dirty, messy, smelly garbage. But then there's also, it's cyclical. It's one of those, we don't have the same amount any day anyway. And so sometimes we have a whole bunch, sometimes we have little, and people have told me about that. People who are saying that they're being trained to go to the curb, they can be trained to keep it at the garage, at the door, where they have to put it. If they're not receiving the service and they want to receive the backdoor service, all they got to do is complain. They'll get on the list. There will be a supervisor who will go and make sure that they get picked up. But if they want to continue using the curb, let them continue using the curb. Don't take it a back door away from the people who very much want it. Also, there's some questions about the provider. I've had some very serious discussions with our longtime provider. I will tell you without hesitation that the last few months, up until about a month ago, the level of service has been the worst that I've known it to be. It has been serial misses. I can take a couple of blocks in the ward, and it's 50-50. It'll be noticed, and then someone will come by and pick it up. And then all of a sudden, it'll be missed again. The provider has been very straightforward in their failures and admitting their failures. There's some change and turnover in some key management positions between the people who are on the street and the people who are at the corporate office. Likewise, I'll be very honest, we've had turnover. The person who handled the trash complaints for years and was a bulldog on trash complaints could call and she would know what address you're calling about before you could say it, doesn't work for the city anymore. Now, the person who's replacing her is a very good employee, very capable, but it takes time for anyone who's a new employee to ramp up fully in all things and all functions. Likewise, Marshall has been a great job doing both his job as city engineer and as acting public works director and acting capital projects manager. But his predecessor was more involved and had experience in those conversations with the people higher up when things need to be escalated. So I relate this as a hiccup, as I would to someone who's been a long-term good employee, and then all of a sudden for a short period of time, they don't perform as well as they do. You identify what they are, and based upon their long track record otherwise, you trust that they're going to be able to right the ship. The only thing that I think we can do wrong is, and I've already promised this publicly, so if you say I painted myself in the corner, I will admit it, but I'm going to do it. Any savings that we realize needs to be passed on to the homeowner. I don't want to say we're saving the city money and then we're going to use this money for some other type of service that homeowners are already paying through the property tax. And I know other people are also paying the property tax, but we need to be transparent about that. So recognizing these numbers, recognizing the conversations that I've had with the people I represent, seeing that there has been a slight majority of people who want to keep the level of service, but more importantly, those people who have expressed that opinion have expressed it much more adamantly than the people who have wanted to express a change. I think I'd like to offer, I'd like to offer an amendment that we, instead of what is in this resolution, we select the option backdoor twice a week, which is our current level of service.
So we actually need to change three things, I believe.
Okay.
So who's going to be the company?
If we're going with low bid, then we'll go with the current provider.
Okay. And then residential. And so backdoor, actually we just have to change backdoor to twice per week.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's my motion.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Bowles, you want to speak on the amendment, the proposed amendment? Alderman Cunningham on the proposed amendment? I'll keep you in the queue if you don't.
Yeah, no, I want to.
Okay. Alderman Brown on the proposed amendment?
Who seconded it?
Okay. Alderman Waters on the proposed amendment? That's just the way you press the button.
I appreciate the figures my colleague down in Ward 2 came up with.
Thank you, Marshall.
Marshall, can I address Marshall, Mayor?
Sure. Thank you.
Now, we was told at the very beginning to take surveys. At least I was told that, and I did that, and I think I sent them to you or something. Over 120 that I talked to, it was a 60-40 back door. Now, if we go back door once a week, we can't go back door twice a week with the same vendor, can we? Back door once a week is that company?
Right, yeah.
Back door twice a week is this company?
Right, two different companies. That's right.
Okay. Okay. Once a week, I believe my colleague said backdoor once a week, is that right?
No, he said backdoor, the amendment is
Twice.
backdoor twice a week.
Twice a week.
Maintain current level.
Well, that's about what I'm getting at on my survey. Can I ask Marsh another question?
Sure.
Are you either one, Mayor?
You're fine, go ahead.
He gave us the figures on what it's going to cost us, the citizens, right? These figures you just gave us.
If we choose to use the current method of calculation, calculating that fee, this would be the fee that we would have this coming year.
Backdoor twice a week would be, again, how much?
$277 versus the current $293.
Right, okay, I got that. Next question. Can we use any of this savings, if I can use that word, to replenish or pay back reimburse the $400,000 that we took out of Public Works paving? Can we do that? Mayor?
No, Alderman Strauss, it's his amendment.
Can we do that? I mean, I'm looking at, we're going to have a savings. And
Sure.
maybe-
I think we need to be very careful here. The amendment, the decision we're making right now is picking a provider and picking a level of service.
Yeah, I realize.
As part of our budget discussion now, it has not been proposed. Typically by now, we have a proposed trash fee as part of the budget discussion. We don't have that yet, I can understand. What I would hope to see is that proposed fee would be $277, using the current method of calculating the fee and what we charge the homeowner. Now, it is the mayor's prerogative to propose something different as part of his budget. If he wants to start charging for limb service, something we currently pay for via the property tax, and put that as part of this fee, that's his prerogative to propose that. I will tell you, I've already pledged not to do that, because this is a fee that's only paid for by homeowners, and I think it's a regressive fee, and the larger we make it, the harder the burden we put upon people who are unable to pay that fee.
I understand.
And so we're having two different discussions. The discussion we're having right now is level of service and provider, and then sometime between now and the end of the fiscal year, we're going to have to decide how much we're going to charge for that.
We can talk about the reimbursement at budget time or workshop or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So right now, your proposal, and I agree with you, is backdoor twice a week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Alderman Skidmore on the amendment?
Okay. Okay, just repeat to me again the amendment that we've got on the floor,
Alderman Strauss?
just in a nutshell.
The amendment essentially is, what's being proposed is a different provider and a different level of service. The amendment, the effect of this amendment is to maintain the current provider and the current level of service. Level of service,
I
I've
got you,
known,
so not really nothing.
nothing changes
Just
other than the
changes.
price goes down.
All right, now. All right, was there anybody else in the queue besides myself that wanted, and then I'll come back to me?
Yeah, hold on. We had some people who wanted to wait till after we took care of the amendment that are in the queue now.
Okay, well, all right, well, then I need to speak to the amendment. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think how I need to word, okay. What if we, 'cause it's not kind of going the way I thought it was going to go, but that's all right, because I'm the alderman for Ward 1, I can go with the flow. Here's my question, all right, when is are we past our drop dead date in terms of figuring out where we are on the garbage contract?
Yes,
We are,
yes.
all right. All right, so okay, so this contract is for how long?
5 years.
Because let me tell you what I'd rather do. I would rather go a year, if we could, and figure out what we were going to do. I was the only boat that did that. I think that the garbage provider now would agree to that. They're here this evening. If this board wants to go this way. I don't know if they do. It's strictly up to this board. It can go 5 or it can go 1. My feeling is, as it always has been, that we should, my personal feeling is we should have extended that for a year. Then we could kind of get back, catch our breath, figure out where we were going.
Is that an amendment to the amendment?
Well, they have to agree to that. I can't tell them that's what our contract's going to be. If they're able to agree to that, then we can go back and punt. Well, we won't have to punt. It'll be first down for a year, and we'll figure out where we're going this summer into fall. Figure about our garbage contract. We would have to do some negotiating. I don't know. Well, we don't think we'd have to rebid anything.
Yeah, we would.
I mean,
60 days.
well, we could, yeah, well, yeah. Well, we would have to, for a year, we'd have to rebid, that's right. Which that, I don't see a problem with that, really.
You mean rebid the,
If they were in-
twice a week backdoor service for?
Well, no, if they were, if the garbage, if they are, our waste people were to agree to having that year extension, then of course we would have to rebid next year.
Oh, right.
Wouldn't that be right? I know it's 3:00 in the morning, so,
Right.
I mean, take your time, and, because this is a serious business
Yeah.
here.
May I ask council a question?
Hold on one second. Alderman Skidmore, anything else?
I was just gonna ask if they were to, but see, we'd have to go and talk to them to make sure, because you just can't do that on the fly. Say, hey, you're gonna pick up our trash for a year extension. So that's why I was asking if we had time to talk to them, but I don't know whether we do or not. They're back in the back waving their hand. I'll suspend the rules, is that proper to?
John, do you want to, hold on. I think John might be able to help us out here.
Well, this is something that we've competitively bid, and we've bid it as a 5-year contract. So if we want to reject all the bids and rebid it for 1 year, we can do that. But we can't really go back and renegotiate with someone whose contract has already been, they've been notified that it's been terminated.
What do you mean it's been notified that we've terminated? What are you talking about?
The committee voted to not notify them that we were going to extend it. The committee voted that 2-1.
Which committee?
The
Oh,
Public
that's,
Works
yeah,
Committee.
Public Works did. Yeah, I was the no vote in that. That's right. So, okay, so you notified them, okay.
Oh, we didn't notify them. We didn't notify them we were going forward. And then we notified them that the contract was coming to an end,
Okay.
which they knew.
Council answered my question.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the information. Okay.
Alderman Waters.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Alderman Hayes.
Yes. First, I like that if we are going to get a lower price, that we share those savings with our constituents. I like being transparent with them. Also, I like that the incumbent has done a great job just with all of my constituents that I talk to. They know their names. They know about their spouses, and they're praying for them. And I'm telling you, they've done a great job of just building a relationship. I have definitely some longer driveways and some older folks, and one of them in particular, Miss Kay Graham, she says, you know, she tells me how old she is, and then she tells me about her guy, and she says, now I would be willing to pull it all the way down the driveway, but you know, I'm 84, and anyway, I appreciate her sweet attitude, but I would just be heartbroken if I found out that on a slippery driveway she slipped and fell or something like that. So I'm also feeling rushed for some reason about this. I just feel rushed, and I don't like that. So it's nothing against any of the other companies, but I just feel rushed, and I feel like we do fire particularly well here. We do particularly well with police. We do particularly well with our parks, and a lot of other areas. But in the other one, the fourth one, where we do particularly well, it's trash. And I just don't want to break it. You know, if it's fixed, don't break it. So That's all I've got.
Alderman Bolt.
Hey, yeah, we talked earlier today about that 3%.
Yes.
So we can be fairly liberal on, if we decided to, about who gets picked up in the back.
Absolutely.
And so
Yep.
it would be pro rata probably.
Yep.
You know, if it's 3% and it means 8%, then that's kind of how that would,
Yes.
that would work out. And if it's curbside, it would be larger containers provided by,
Yes, the containers will be provided by the vendor.
thanks, that's all I got.
Alderman Cunningham.
Mayor, Marshall, do we have any idea what percent of the people do get backdoor service now? Does Republic have those numbers that they could provide us? I mean, do they keep track of that? Because apparently it's the same people all the time, because I've left my trash can in the middle of my driveway. They refuse to pick it up, because I always take it to the curb. But the few times I've done that, they just left it there.
Right.
And I have about maybe a 30-foot driveway, so it's not that long.
Yeah, I don't know that we have accurate numbers for that.
So we have no idea. Because that would be a big part of this. And also, you mentioned that 3% would be backdoor if we went to a curbside service. Is Waste Pro the ones that would be doing that? Okay. Are they doing a combination of that now in other municipalities where they're doing curbside for the majority of the people and maybe 10% of it doing backdoor? And how did they identify those customers?
Yes, they currently provide that for cities similar to Hendersonville.
How do they identify those customers?
I think it's up to the city to decide that who gets backdoor service.
Yeah, but how do they know? How do their people know? Okay, so it's computerized?
Do you mind if they answer that? They can answer that question if.
Is it computerized? Okay. Is Republic computerized for that?
Backdoor.
Which ones get backdoor and which ones don't?
We need to suspend the rules.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or Marshall, do you want to get the answer and relay it to us?
Yeah, sorry. You have the capability to do that. Yeah.
So we have to provide the addresses ahead of time? Are there specifications whether or not you pick up backdoor? Like, do they have to be in a trash bag or a trash can or?
Per the current contract, they have to be in back.
So they have to be in a bag, not in a trash can?
No, in a trash can. In a bag, in a trash can.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that what you guys do too? I'm not getting real
That's
good
based on our
answers.
current contracts.
Yeah. And you have no idea what percentage you're doing backdoor, right? Is that correct?
75%.
You're doing 75%
Well,
backdoor?
Marshall, help us. I need you either to relay the information or they need to come up here.
75% backdoors, which are 70-30, 75-25. It's 75%, 75% is backdoor. 20.
Really?
25-30% is curbside.
Oh.
So.
Not in Mansker Farms, you're not. You're doing probably zero backdoor there.
Yeah, there's certain areas.
And that's the biggest subdivision in the whole city.
Right, there's certain neighborhoods are, more or less.
Alderman Cunningham, anything else?
Okay. No, I just pretty much wanted to know how they identify those people. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was going to say, in my neighborhood, we pull our trash to the curb. I mean, that's everybody, and then and I'm in Ward 2, Walton Ferry Peninsula, and then Ward 1, Walton Ferry Peninsula. My parents, they put theirs, neighbors put their trash out on the curb as well. I did get quite a few calls today, though, or this should be last week or so, related to, it's all over the place. I mean, depending on if you had children or not, if you wanted once a week or twice a week, back door, front door, but it seemed like today I got a barrage of 2 times a week, leave it the way it was. Back door twice a week, back that, just like, man, all of a sudden everybody come out of the woodwork today for that. I mean, it is what it is, so. Just thought I'd share that with everybody, thank you.
Alderman Woodcock.
Marshall, did you personally meet with all vendors that put a bid in?
Other than the bid proposal, no. Well,
Excuse me.
a few I did, like separate from the bid proposal, yes.
Did you meet with them here at City Hall
Yes.
at all times, or did you meet off-site at any time?
It was here, yeah, I think it was here at City Hall at all times.
Okay. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's 3:10. I'm going to try to keep it brief. In my tenure as alderman, besides for the actual budget, this is the largest line item and commitment that I've ever voted for. This is a multi-million-dollar contract with a 5-year marriage. So to be sitting here at 3:15 in the morning making these decisions brings me some pause, because clearly we're not all at our best at this point. So it looks like some type of a decision is going to be made tonight, but what I would recommend in the future, 5 years down the road, if we do engage with a 5-year contract, and I'm not placing blame, I'm just suggesting a smoother process, that we start this process 9 months prior to your bid day. And that way, we can first of all determine what type of service is truly beneficial for our city and bid just that one out. If you have to, bid out 2. But taking, straw polls and this and that, I've never seen anything more bizarre in my life than the process that we've gone through on a multi-million-dollar 5-year contract, spending citizens' taxpayers' money. It's just bizarre to me. The other thing that I don't quite understand, and I know it was addressed, and I appreciate the board's indulgence, is the fact that our recycling waste committee, that their recommendation was not brought forward. There seems to be like a disconnect. And with recycling, one week we hear it's a dead market, the next week we hear it's still viable, the next week we hear it's this and it's that. People want recycling in Hendersonville. I'm not sure how we're going to make that work. I know that we have a pilot program, but if there could be some vision for recycling, if somebody can just tell me what the plans are, if we're going to add some more houses or this and that, but even if half of those people recycle, it's going to cut down on waste, which affects the type of service that we need. But because we have put the cart before the proverbial horse in this, we don't really know how much waste we're going to cut down upon by actually recycling. So in my mind, this whole process is completely backwards, and it's very difficult for me to understand that. I'm very hesitant in this decision. I feel it was rushed. I'm not sure if there are other viable solutions so that we have better time for the city to prepare. And if there's a change of service, getting citizens prepared. But, and I'd like to apologize to both vendors who are here tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to be here for our city. I know it's very late. And just thank you for being here.
Where we were on the process about 6 months ago is we were moving toward extending the contract for a year so we'd have more time. That's where Marshall and I were, and that's what we intended to do. And that's what our plan was to bring forward to y'all. That was up until March, I guess it was. Then we took the recommendation from the Public Works Committee and we did a 180. And it was something that it absolutely surprised us, but that was the recommendation from the Public Works Committee. And so we went forward. This is not my ideal situation by any means. I was ready to come forward with a recommendation that we extend by a year, but then the Public Works Committee voted for us to do something different. Alderman Campbell.
Yes, speaking of the Public Works Committee, I happened to be in there that day along with Alderman Skidmore, our chairman, and our newest member of the board is the one who brought that motion forward, stating that he wanted to know right then and there, and he asked Marshall, I do recall, can we renegotiate and bid this out right now? And he said, yes, the vendor said they could do that at this time, and the chairman of the committee said, I don't think we have enough time, and out of trying to work with the executive branch of the city, I went along with the newest member of our board to try to say, okay, I'll see what's going on, see what they want to do. So to sort of lay that back on Public Works, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with that one, because I think it came right out of the executive committee to us.
No.
Through Mr.
no.
Robertson, the way he was
No.
talking that day at that meeting. We can go get that tape and listen to it, but it definitely sounded to me like it was something that he was talking,
Not at all.
with the mayor, this, that, and the other, and he was mentioning the mayor, and I do recall that conversation. So
And I believe that y'all voted 2-1
we
to
sure
go-
did.
to
I
go.
said I went along with him. Yes,
I-
sir. Trying to vote with you on that. Trying to help you.
My feeling then was that we should extend the contract. We had a letter from them about extending the contract, and we were absolutely fine doing that, feeling like in the course of a year
No, we
or
did
14 months, we would have more options down the road. And I was very surprised that y'all voted 2-1 to.
Did you come in there and
to
tell
take
us that?
I'm sorry?
Did you come to the committee meeting and tell us that? I don't recall.
Yeah, we told you that we had a letter to extend the contract.
Well, I know that, but I don't recall you saying that's what you wanted to do. That's why I said, the way I understood Mr. Robertson was that he wanted to work with the mayor. And he
Pretty
started
sure I
talking about
told
the
you that we
mayor,
were
he wanted
prepared to do
this.
that, and we were.
Let's get into it. And I'm like, okay, I'll work with the mayor. Why not?
I'm
trying to
pretty
be
sure,
workable.
I'm pretty sure we told you we were prepared to extend it a year and give ourselves 12 to 14 months to prepare later on. And again,
Yeah.
I'm not part of that committee. Y'all voted
I
2-1. And
realize that, and
Alderman
it's
Campbell, hold on please
3:15
for
in
me.
the morning. I remember something
Alderman
totally
Campbell,
different,
hold on
sir.
for me,
Thank
please. I'm
you.
trying to answer your question. And because you all voted 2-1.
Yep.
That's the reason that we changed gears and did a
Exactly.
180.
Marshall, I'd
because
like to get that tape tomorrow from your office and listen to it for that meeting, please. Thank you.
Alderman Waters.
I just wanted to clarify that I was in that meeting, Public Works, the night that was discussed, although I wasn't on the committee. And I sat and listened to my colleague here. The Public Works Committee voted that night.
Yeah, sure did.
To not extend the contract. That was made by the chairman and voted on by the committee. Now, how that came down to that, I don't know.
What about the chairman?
Pardon me?
Alderman
Chairman
Campbell,
didn't vote on
please hold on. We've got a conversation going on down here, and he has the floor. So we
I
will
mean,
be able to come back to you in just a
If you want to
second.
interrupt me, go ahead, Pat. It doesn't make me any difference.
Mr. Waters, go ahead, sir.
No, you keep mumbling and carrying on.
I said the chairman didn't vote for it, sir. He was against it.
But you and another person did,
Mr.
so that's why it was a
Robertson did.
2 to 1
Yes, sir,
vote.
You're right.
Alderman Waters, anything else? I appreciate that. Alderman Campbell, anything else?
I just will pull that tape out tomorrow and I'll listen to it. And if I think it's a very interesting tape, I'll bring it to Mr. Waters.
Oh, please share it with all of us.
That's fine. I sure will.
Please share it with all of
I
us.
sure will.
Okay. Alderman Skidmore.
Okay, thank you. Let's all be cool up here for a little bit, because let's just see, we all knew this was coming. The garbage contracts are so volatile in our local, so everybody just take a deep breath here. Yes, there was, to answer everybody's question, it was a 2-1 vote. I was not on the prevailing side of that. I asked the committee, and I'm not casting any doubt or any shame upon anyone. Everybody has the right to vote. But I asked everyone to please, we were making a big mistake, because the only reason that I was thinking it was a mistake was because of time. You would look, I've been through these, you look at the calendar and you got to work back from the drop dead date on back, and I saw we were out of time. Now, again, I want to ask, and our city attorney's here, because maybe I didn't ask this correctly. Because there's such dissension, John, on this particular issue in terms of waste pickup, I guess our hauler that is here now, if they would agree to a 1-year extension tonight, can we do that?
You'd have to reject all the current bids.
And then it would have to go
See what
all-
happened after that, and
Okay.
you have to argue that you didn't really terminate the previous contract, that you just thought you terminated it, and then asked to renegotiate it. But
Yeah,
typically it would need to be bid, just to
Yeah.
be clean. It
All
could be a very quick turnaround, but I just feel like it'd have to be bid if you
Well,
rejected the
I
bids.
felt that, but I wasn't sure, and I just wanted to ask you what your thought process on it was. So what we've got to decide tonight, I mean, in all reality, is where you want to go with this. If this board decides we want to keep it the same, that is 2 times a week backdoor, then you vote as such, and then we need to find out who that, you can either ask at any time who is that vendor, our vendors are going to be, or if you want to go another route. But the board has to agree, a majority of us have to agree to what it is, and it will be for the 5-year contract, I guess is what it is, that we are in, with this resolution and intent to enter into a contract. So, have I said that right, John?
Yes, there's a motion before the board right now to do just
Right.
that.
And I just I know there was, but dealing with it almost, 4 now? I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page because it is important. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore. Alderman Hayes.
So Attorney Bradley, you're saying that we really should not try to take a 1-year extension with our current vendor without requesting new rebids?
We have sent them a letter terminating this contract
Right.
as of June 30th. It's hard to go back and say, well, we're still going to take some rights under that. The language of the contract disclaims that. It says it must be done 90 days before the end of the contract. We did not do that 90 days before the end of the contract. You typically don't bid something and then renegotiate with your prior vendor.
Yeah.
That would be contrary to the spirit of competitive bidding laws.
And help me out, Marshall. We have a bid from our current vendor for twice-a-week backdoor with this bid process.
Correct. It's just for a 5-year term instead of 1 year.
And it'd actually be a lower price. Alderman Waters.
No, you just answered my question.
Okay.
You asked my question. Thank you.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Why was the contract canceled when we're in the middle of a bidding process? Why did you send that letter?
It has to be sent 90 days before the end of the, I believe that's right.
90 days.
Yeah, it has to be sent 90 days. We have to give them notification 90 days ahead of time. And that was what the Public Works Committee recommended.
You did? Mark? You recommended that?
Yes, I came back here and.
A 90-day severance?
No, well, that is provided, so yes, the committee did recommend that because that's in the contract, that we have to notify them 90 days before. And it wouldn't have made any difference if it was Republic or whomever, Hot Dog Association. It was, you have to notify them what you're doing.
Okay, this is another reason why in 5 years, and I will not be here in 5 years, hopefully I'll be alive, but I'm not going to be here. You must plan ahead. You cannot have these overlappings of contracts canceled and severed without something else in place. If something were to go wrong at last minute, just things have got to be planned out 9 months ahead of time. This is very rushed, and we'll see where this goes. Thank you.
Again, we had it planned out. Alderman Hayes.
No, you need more time.
Let me ask a
we're rushed
question.
now.
Let's think just for a minute. I don't like being locked in for 5 years right now. I think that we should ask for bids from all 4 vendors for a 1 year. We don't have to take the lowest bid. We can plan to stay with whoever we want. We take the 1 year, that gives us 12 months to figure out if maybe we should go to either another provider.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be going to the curb where we can better get our recycling tied in. It's just time is what I want. And I guarantee you that the other 3 companies are going to be at least appreciative that in 12 months, we're going to look at it again. We would have 12 months. We're going to get a better deal. instead of there being any price increase. We don't have to go with the lowest bid. I don't like tying us up for 60 months when we're really right at a time where recycling's up and down. I do believe that a lot of people are using the curb and would be willing to. We could still do backdoor for those who are unable to get it to the curb. I think that all of the vendors would be grateful that knowing that in 12 months they're going to get another shot at it. If you had to take the lowest bid no matter what, then I wouldn't do it. Thank you.
Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, thank you. In response to my colleague, my distinguished colleague from Ward 5, here's our dilemma with this. Our contract ends in June, isn't that right? So when that contract ends, we won't. I'm not sure. It's what are we in April? And then May. We're in a. It's really going to be tough. Because if it's in June, is it the end of June or the beginning of June? Do you recall when that?
End of June.
End of June. We're still going to be cutting it. Because after the end of June, that means no garbage is going to be picked up. That's what that means. Yeah, that means by the end of June, no garbage is going to be picked up in the city of Hendersonville because they're not legally under a contract with us.
Well,
now,
hold on, Alderman Hayes. Alderman Skidmore, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've said this once, as I've said it 100 times. I am not sure. And I said it back then. I don't know whether that's going to give us enough time to go back and rebid everything. Could we do that for a year? I mean, would we have enough time?
Yeah, my guess is the price would go up a little bit just for being just a year.
Yeah.
But
there's also
well, maybe not. I mean, I can't say, we can't speak for any of our vendors.
Right.
I mean, it could be, they might say the same thing. Because we've got two of them, excuse me, Mayor, I didn't mean to hit that. We have two tonight that are in the audience and
They are the audience.
If I could interject here real quickly.
Yeah.
I've delayed speaking a little bit. My recommendation is that we go with what the board, the straw poll was last week. I know some people have changed their mind and moved around a little bit, but honestly, that was my recommendation as well. After looking at all of them, that was the answer I gave. Part of the reason I make that recommendation is not tonight, not necessarily just because I like that company or that service or whatever, because of the time that we're under right now. Is that we've got to give whatever company it is, we've got to give them time to mobilize and time to buy the equipment. That's part of the reason that we bid this in 5-year increments, is because they have to buy equipment and they have to get a return on that investment. And that's part of the reason we do that in 5 years. So if you want my recommendation, it is that we go with what was in the resolution that I had before you. But if you don't want that one, we need to go with something and go with it quickly, please. Otherwise, as I've said many, many times, what I've been looking for in this process was lower cost, no disruption of service. I realize that's the ideal, but I'd like to get as close to both of those as possible. Alderman Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. Just piggybacking on what Alderman Hayes was talking about, just a question. You guys are geared up and working, but if we ask you to do a year bid, it's not going to be cost effective for you to do that, is it? Unless you raise the price pretty high.
Do we want to suspend the rules? And yeah, come on up.
Yeah, I think that's fair to ask that question.
Without objection, we're to suspend the rules so we can hear from representatives from both companies that are here tonight. Excuse me, hold on. We're going to go ahead and suspend the rules, but Alderman Brown still has the floor. You don't want to suspend the rules yet?
Well, I'd like to get advice from attorneys before we do that.
We can still do that. They don't have to come up and speak quite yet if we suspend the rules. Without objection, we're going to suspend the rules and hear from representatives of these two companies. Alderman Brown, you still have the floor. Well, if he wants to ask a question, that's fine. He has the floor right now. He's the one who made that suggestion.
But Mayor, you said without objection, and I gave an objection. I would like to ask the advice of the council regarding the bid process before we potentially have an auction type situation here tonight, an informal bid.
Hold on, let's go back to Alderman Brown. Would you like to make a motion to suspend the rules or not?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
No, but my tank's empty. I mean, I'm about to just lay down and go to sleep. My tank is almost out, just so you'll know. If I get up and leave, I'm going to bed.
Alderman Strauss.
Was Mr. Campbell's in queue before I was? I'll be happy to defer to him if he'd like.
Did you have any other questions, Alderman Brown?
No, sir.
Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, sir. I was going to say along those lines, if you're going to go to a one-year contract, it's cost prohibitive. I mean, they do a 5-year contract for a reason. They buy new trucks and all the cans and this, that, and the other. I say, can you imagine putting a new truck in a can in a 1-year contract where that would be at? It's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And so you got to figure out where we're going. I mean, that's really not an option, guys, in my opinion, the 1-year contract thing you're talking about doing right now. Just to the cost of the equipment, the truck, and the cans, if you want to go curbside. I mean, you're talking about a pretty good size outlay there of capital.
Hold on. Alderman Campbell, anything else?
That'll do it, sir.
Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. I'm just wanting to make sure we're very careful in the bid process. What we do is we put out to bid what our requested service levels are, and we ask people to provide what they can do for us and how much it's going to cost. We don't negotiate. We state laws designed in such a way that that bid process is designed to give the best possible prices to the taxpayer. Now, regardless of how we got into this situation, I think we waited too late, but we're here. So let's not rehash all of that. We've already terminated contract with the existing provider, so it's kind of hard to extend a contract that's already been terminated. But what we have are viable bids, viable options that we have been asked to consider. It really is our only options are to pick one or dismiss them all and start over. Even if any provider was ready to go day one, we're going to be cutting it close with the amount of time it would take for us to put together the package, send it out, and then they would have to respond, and then we would have to consider their responses. Then we have to add to the fact that there's the possibility that some of the respondents don't have equipment or manpower in this area, and they would have to purchase, relocate, or hire. With the possibility that we could be just as screwed up in a month from now than we are now, except we're even more pressed for time than we are now. We're in a situation where I guess even they say a blind pig finds a nut from time to time. We have an option on the table that is a known service provider because it's the one that's provided service to us for years. It is a level of service to which we are familiar and our residents are accustomed because it is the same one that I've known as long as I've known trash service. And I will tell you, we were asked to make a decision at the workshop, at the budget workshop, and I appreciate the mayor recognizing my concern that we shouldn't be voting on a budget. We shouldn't be voting on a contract in a workshop when it's not an announced agenda item. That should be happening in a business meeting, even if it's taking us till 3:30 in the morning. But we did a straw poll, and I said at the time I hoped that conversation we had at the workshop would generate public interest and more comments. And I will tell you, it worked. It was reported in the newspaper, it was reported online, and the quality and the quantity of comments that I got about trash service went up after those reports went out. Because typically people are going to call you when they're not happy with trash service. If they're content, they're not going to say anything. But they had the opportunity to realize, wait a second, what I like could possibly change, and they started to speak up. We're lucky. As much as we may have ever tried to do to completely mess up this process, We have ended up with a bid from a known provider for a known level of service, which to me, at least by my residents who expressed an opinion, have expressed a majority support for this and a emphatic support for that. They're the ones who care most about that option. Known service, known provider, and a lower cost. I wish we could do it for a year. I wish we could do it for 2 years. I wish there was a way we could figure out in the meantime, how could we blend in recycling options? But I say what we do right now is we take the legal option, the clean option, the one that we know is going to work, the popular option, the less expensive option, and we just consider ourselves lucky and hope to do better next time.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to explain this one more time, and I'm going to be super duper brief. So this is Management 101. When you have got a contract with a vendor or a provider or service, you never drop that contract until you have another contract in place.
We didn't have a choice.
The contract wasn't terminated.
So the contract is not terminated?
The current contract ends June 30th.
Right.
And so we just merely sent a letter explaining that we're not going to, essentially, it's going to end June 30th.
So is the contract going to end or not?
It's going to end June 30th.
And that was based on the decision of the Public Works Committee.
Right.
Okay, so again, we have a gap in coverage. We are backed into a time. The mayor just said we need more time and we're short on time. Several other people said the same thing. If this had been decided back in January, let's say, and a vendor was selected in January, and you sign the contract with the vendor, whoever the new service vendor is, only then do you drop the contract for the existing vendor so as to not create a situation like that. That's what I'm talking about in planning further ahead. But we are where we are now. I'm very concerned about making, again, a multi-million-dollar 5-year decision when I don't feel we have properly vetted or educated the community, especially if there's a change in service, and we've given zero consideration to recycling and the percentage of waste that will be cut down. And further, we've had zero discussion on, I've heard several people say, pass the savings on to citizens, and I like that as well, but we have a $1 million tipping fee, which we're pulling out of the general fund. So if there's any savings, is that money going to go to cover the tipping fee? Thank you.
Alderman Edwards.
I think Alderman Hayes was up next.
You haven't spoken
Okay.
the second time.
I would just wonder how we're going to vote on this. Could we take another poll and see what everybody wants to do? And the
Right now,
majority
we've got a
will take-
resolution with amendments in there. So that's the motion that we've got on the floor.
Okay.
Alderman Hayes.
I just wanted to say I bragged on Republic earlier, and I really appreciate them, and they're doing a great job. But I also really appreciate Laura and Roland and Waste Pro, and I know y'all put in a very good faith effort, and I apologize that we didn't give you more time. That's one reason I was pushing for the 1 year, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. I know y'all spent money. Y'all been over here a lot. I appreciate it, and I do want to do recycling. Thank you.
We have an amendment to change the wording to the contract would be with Republic to twice per week, backdoor. We need to call the roll on this. So that's our option right now is that. If you want that, you vote yes. If you don't, and you vote no, then we'll go back to the initial resolution. So right now, what we're voting on is whether to amend the resolution, and the amendment will be to choose Republic for twice per week backdoor. So can you call the roll? Okay. So if you vote yes, you're choosing Republic twice per week backdoor. If you vote no, then we'll go back to the original resolution. That's on 5-year.
Twice a week.
Let's go normal.
Your reverse orders, please.
Go ahead.
Clary,
No.
Woodcock, Waters,
Yes.
Sprouse,
Yes.
Skidmore,
Yeah.
Petrelli,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Edwards,
No.
Cunningham,
No.
Campbell,
Yes.
Vote.
Backdoor twice. Yes.
Okay, so now we're back on the main motion, and the main motion is the Resolution 2019-26 as it's been amended. And that is that the text that we just added, having Republic twice a week backdoor pickup. All those, please call the roll, okay?
That's too confusing.
Go by age. Start in the middle.
Let's go normal, please.
Vote.
Now we're going the other way.
No, we're not. We're going this way.
That's always goes this way. I'm sorry.
We're voting on Resolution 2019-26 as we just amended it, and that is for Republic to be, have a 5-year contract, twice per week backdoor.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Cunningham.
No.
Edwards. No. Hayes.
Yes.
Petrelli.
Abstain.
Skidmore. No. Sprouse.
Yes.
Waters.
Yes.
Woodcock. Clary.
No.
Bill.
So that passes with a vote of 6-5-1. So Resolution 2019-26 passes. Do we have a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.